Bruce, I think we're live.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm Christina Pan. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live podcast. I'm an executive coach, and I specialize in helping AI CEOs, founders, and executives get strategic clarity and confidence in your journey pioneering where there are no precedents by strategically activating your zone of genius to unlock your next 10x. We'll open up to Q&A at the end, so feel free to post comments, your questions in the comments in the LinkedIn Live. And now I am super excited to have Bruce Constantine here today. Bruce is a highly accomplished CEO and serial entrepreneur. He spent the last 2 years studying and building 2 stealth AI companies. Before this, he was a senior executive leading Wayfair's partner operations group and Castlegate. And he founded, grew, and successfully exited the global coffee equipment company Espro. He was an executive at McKinsey, leading transformations across over $100 billion in client operations. He holds a dual master's in MIT in business and engineering and an engineering degree from McGill. An innovator at heart and an incredible inventor, he has over 50 global patents and trademarks. On top of that, he is a champion horse rider.
Okay, I was with you until you said that. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, Bruce and I know each other from business school at MIT Sloan over 20 years ago, and we hadn't talked in about 10 years, but it was our 20th reunion this year. And we are now 6 months into our executive coaching partnership, and I have been so impressed by the velocity of his transformations. I say velocity, not speed, because it's in the right direction for him. And the inventions that have come out of his brain and his zone of genius. I'm excited for our conversation and for him to share his non-intuitive insights that could spark possibilities for you too. Bruce, welcome to the show.
It's quite an introduction, Christine.
I mean, you are incredible. Okay, so let's talk about how it started.
How we started, or how
how we started. I have my first question for you.
Sure.
Is what was the tipping point where you said, I need a different kind of thought partner for this level, especially at this moment in the AI era?
Sure. Let's step back. I've been at this for almost 2 years now, a little bit less, maybe call it 18, 19 months since I've left Wayfair. And I stepped away knowing that I wanted to work on what was a complete change in how business was occurring, how work was occurring, how people were existing. But I didn't have a clear vision for what was possible. And the first part of the journey was assembling people, partners, and doing work using AI to figure out what was possible, what was not possible. That led to anchoring a group of people to build a company. And we really started with earnest about October of last year. So call it 4 or 5 months after I left Wayfair, really knew what we wanted to do. And what was fascinating is we built an entire product, an entire business over 6 or 7 months, spent a lot of money, a lot of my money. And when we got ready to launch it, we realized it wasn't a business. It was not a real business because the platform that we were building on top of had changed so quickly during the time that we built the product that it was no longer a business. That's not quite true. But it was at that moment that I think I heard from you almost out of the blue, if I recall correctly, about something you were doing. And I said, gosh, let's just chat. And I recall our first chat, what I think I told you was, I was really confident about where we're going, but I didn't know exactly what steps we were going to take along the way. It felt like we were pointed kind of over there, but it felt like there was a lot of fog in the way. And I recalled saying to you, there's like 3 or 4 different things that could occur. And I would really appreciate having a sounding board over the next 6 months while I figure out which one of those are going to be real. And that to me was the impetus. So if I could sum it up, it was a person inside of dense fog spending a lot of money every day with a lot of people building something with real uncertainty in a market that is unlike any I've ever imagined, much less participated in. And it was in that environment of fog that we came together.
It was divine timing. And yes, I think many people could also relate too, right? With all the fast changes every day in AI.
Unreal.
And the lack of clarity. And along with that, we actually talked about the existential crisis of AI founders and pioneers as well.
Sure.
And you also went through an existential identity shift in our work together. Can you tell us more about that and the impact personally and professionally for people pioneering in AI?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the painting off my left shoulder. That's by Ai Weiwei, who is a Chinese activist, inventor, artist, exiled Chinese member of the art community. And what it says is, "Do you care about humanity?" So about March of this year, I think, maybe it was January of this year, he wrote 81 questions for AI. These were not questions for me or for you. They were questions from a human to AI. One of his 81 is, "Do you care about humanity?" And that's what's written on the wall. So that's a print from Ai Weiwei that I bought. And I start there because anybody that works in AI or works on AI very quickly discovers that they're tinkering with both tech and a little bit about humanity itself. And I don't think that is overstating the problem to say that. It certainly motivated me.
Or a lot with a lot with you.
Apologize for the cold, but it certainly motivated me. And so as I was starting to work on AI, in particular, the area of interest I had was on the idea of a brain. What is your brain? What is in it? What is ours? Who am I? Like some really big questions in the context of AI. And what is knowledge? And those weren't just kind of philosophical questions. My thesis was that inside of that was a series of products, opportunities, businesses that could help us define what is a human in the context of AI and hold our ground. And so that's where I started. The existential crisis for me happened as I realized that this first business that I had built was not a business. And maybe, Christina, if you would let me, I'd like to share my screen and just play something that was kind of maybe the word seminal, certainly instructive in helping me cement my thinking, both that what I was building was not a business, but also that this is a worthwhile thing for us to all think about, both as business people building on and in the AI space, but also as humans conducting ourselves inside of the AI space.
Okay, let me add it to the screen. Okay, it's on screen.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me set this up. This is, you can see on the right side, May 15th, 2025. So Christina, chronologically, came out within 2 weeks of us talking for the first time. May 15th, 2025. Okay. I'm also going to call out that 1,000 people have seen this. So maybe we're going to increase that right now. Let me play it. It's about a minute long, and then I'll.
Who is it?
This is Sam Altman. He is the founder of OpenAI. He is also one of the early investors in Reddit. I think he owns 7, 9, 12% of Reddit. So he's both on the side of where humans conduct themselves and contribute real knowledge on Reddit, but also in OpenAI, where one might say they're building the foundational models for AGI, as in this concept where humans may not be necessary or may be complementary to an AI object.
What do you think are most sort of entrepreneurs and VCs are getting wrong about the future of AI?
Another great question. I think there are two fundamental strategies to build like an AI startup right now. You either bet that when near the top of the technology is about as good as it's going to be, or you bet that the technology is going to get massively better. So if you are building, say, like an AI tutor company, to stick on an earlier example, you can build a system where as the base model gets smarter, very naturally, the level at which students can effectively learn just goes up and up. So, maybe it's like only effective for like 6th graders with the current version, but the next version it's like helpful for 8th graders and then 10th graders and then eventually PhD students. And you can just like get to surf that wave. Or you can say, I'm going to put all my effort into just barely making this work for 8th graders in the limited case of history and do a huge amount of work to like have a human in the loop and correct factual errors for this one class. In the first world, you'll be really happy when GPT-5 comes out, and in the second world, you'll be really sad. My intuition would have been that 95% of entrepreneurs would have picked the first world. It seems like 95% of entrepreneurs are picking the second world. And then you have this whole like OpenAI killed my startup meme. But we try to say very loudly, like, we get up every morning trying to make the model much better. And if you're doing like a little thing to get it to barely work in one specific case, that's probably a mistake.
What do you think?
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know what audience is listening to this, but as an entrepreneur working inside of AI, that was about as transformational a 1 minute of thinking as I've had over 18 months. And here's why. It forced me to think about the idea that models are going to get infinitely better. And it forced me to dig hard into understanding what that would mean to humans. And let me briefly tell you what we were working on. We were working on, originally, this idea that the models, the multiple models, all were giving different answers to the same question. And so our initial idea was that integrating models, bumping them off each other, would get to a better answer, a meta answer for everybody that would be highly valuable. Listening to this, we built a product like completely ready to launch around this exact same time. And when I heard this, it forced me to step back and to say, the entire thesis is built on fear of AI. Fear of AI being wrong. And why? Because I was building something that would make it wrong less often. And so I was afraid of AI. I was coming from it from a position of primary fear as an entrepreneur, as a leader. And so I was solving a problem that was built upon fear as a foundation. When you listen to what Sam just said, what he's actually saying is, we understand it's making mistakes. We're working on that. If you assume it will get infinitely better, he says substantially better. I say infinitely better. So if the moment that you say that it's going to get infinitely better, then trying to help OpenAI be wrong less often is not a business. It also meant that there's no room to be afraid of AI. I, as a leader and as a human, had to ask the hard question of, what would happen if I'm not afraid of AI? Like, how would I get past that? And that was the existential crisis for me. I hope that makes sense. But the very
Yes,
first question
I
was,
remember those.
what would I do if I wasn't afraid of AI? That was the turning point.
And I remember that in our earlier days of working together. You had also mentioned a decision that AI flagged led to the moment of existential crisis. Is that a different?
No, it's not. It's different. It's related. So here's what I did next. When I answered the question, what would I do if I wasn't afraid of AI? I took our business plan and our product and I fed it into AI. So the first thing I would do if I wasn't afraid of AI is I'd stop worrying about protecting my knowledge, my intellectual property. I was afraid to show my own intellectual property to AI. And so the first thing I did is I was like, wow, okay. First thing I would do if I wasn't afraid of AI is I would start to work with it aggressively with the most important kernel about what I'm working on, the most important intellectual property that I have. Give it to the AI itself. You know what it said? It said, this is a bad idea. If the products are going to get infinitely better, then the models themselves are going to converge on the same answer. Why? Because AI is acquisitive. It acquires, it absorbs the knowledge of people around it, of businesses around it, and there is no avoiding my information becoming known to AI, either through me giving it to it or through someone else that's working on something similar, giving something similar to it, and the AI being able to interpolate that, yeah, that's kind of what Bruce is working on. So the first thing I did was I gave it the business model. And guess what? It said, bad idea. So that led me to my second question, which is, what would I do if I trusted AI? Well, the answer to that is I would flip from denial to acceptance to genuine curiosity. So, and that's truly where you and I started stepping off. And I think what was really interesting is in parallel with my AI journey, I got curious, really curious about AI, and you and I could share some stories, some crazy stuff that I did once I started leaning in and saying, okay, so what if the AI is right? What would I do? Well, I would lean in like I did at McKinsey on a problem where I had 18 people around a room working simultaneously on something, and I would lean in hard on the collective wisdom in that room. Well, if we believe that AI is more right than wrong, let's lean in. That's what I would do. And that's what I did.
Yes.
And you, just to punt back to you and give you some kudos, to me, you said that the velocity was high of what I've done. I have no idea. I don't blow my own horn. But what I will tell you is when I leaned in hard as hell on trusting AI, believing it was more right than wrong, and getting really curious about what it was telling me, it led me to listen differently. And also to then discover with you, what are the strengths that I uniquely as a human can bring to this collaboration? Wow. Me, VAI, v other humans, and what I should just let others around me do, whether it's a teammate that's more talented or an AI that has some ideas or a collaboration thereof.
Oh my God, yes. First, I want to celebrate like how you did a complete 180 from, that fear to the trust and embracing it and all the way to curiosity. Yeah. And this is a great segue because I think, right, you had inklings of a pivot when we reconnected. And I want to segue to talking about, your zone of genius and a few of the top non-obvious breakthroughs you had from our executive coaching partnership so far.
Can I pause you for just 1 second? can I tell you how much I bristle at the word genius next to my name? So just for everyone listening,
most, a lot of people.
It's the one thing in this method that I absolutely bristle at, because I not only don't think I'm a genius, I don't think I have genius in me. I do know some people that I would term geniuses, and I am not that. But the context of it, you're right. There are things, call it this way. At McKinsey, we said that some people were spiky or had spikes. And I think of that zone of genius work that you use as us kind of reviewing together, me at this point in my career, the human I am, the mistakes I've made, the strengths I've got. What are my spikes? That's how I came to think of your work. But man, if I had one thing, I would like cross out the word genius.
Well, I genuinely think you're a genius. And I would like everyone to know everyone does have their own unique zone of genius. And I say that because I am a maximizer in Clifton Strengths, which means I love maximizing other people's zone of genius. And it's easy for me to see their strengths. But okay, back to you.
Okay, go.
For sharing that, because I think a lot of people would resonate with that. There's other clients and execs who are also like, I don't really use the word genius in my name in the same sentence. But given what I know of our work together so far, I genuinely think you are a genius. We probably can't share everything in this podcast, but maybe a future podcast. And so, yes, one of your biggest breakthroughs was getting strategic clarity and clarifying through your zone of genius. Why was that such a high leverage unlock for you personally?
So I said that, the first question I asked myself is, am I afraid of AI? And I realized I really was. And then what if I trusted it? And then I could get curious. I think the pivot for me with you playing back to me things that came out of the Clifton Strengths, which for me included strategic thinking. That one wasn't a surprise to me. So I would say that the things that did come up in our work wasn't a surprise. I just wouldn't have regarded them as so important to my impact. But I think for me to proceed working on AI, I had to then say to myself, I believe that I can change with AI. So that's beyond saying that I'm afraid of it. It's beyond saying that I trust it. It's saying I will lean in and use it fully. And then I'm going to completely change my habits. I'm going to change my workflows. I'm going to change my questions. I'm going to change which topics I think I work on without AI and which topics I work on with AI. And even more than that, I'm going to pivot our entire work as a group, as a team, to believe that all humans have to change with AI. And that led me to huge changes in what I was studying, what I was working on, what the team was working on. But fundamentally, I started changing and I started believing that I was underestimating humanity. Right? Remember, I started with this thing that I bought in January, February, saying, do you care about humanity? It's a pretty scary thing to put on your wall, right? I mean, it's pretty clear that I was anchored in fear. But if I believe that all humans all of us have the capacity to change with AI, then it's not fear. Now it's not about knowledge. By the way, one of my big takeaways from Sam's statement, from my work, from a blown company that would have launched in July, and what's led to the phenomenal pivots that we've done over the last 4 or 5 months. And I'm so excited about what we're doing. The basic belief is that
your zone of genius, by the way.
I know, but the basic belief, I hear you. Stop using that word. But the actual belief is that we all can change, that I don't need to be afraid of it, and I can believe that we will solve the problems that risk each other's livelihoods, each other's capacity to deliver for our families, to earn incomes and protect our identities, right? These things I was worried about, I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to solve this. So now what's the mission? The mission, you heard me say this, but I came to regard AI as a black hole, right? Talk about fear.
Yes.
Like a black hole. Black hole of what? Well, a black hole of knowledge. And it is, I stand by it as a really vital analogy for us to understand what is AI to the knowledge basis that we have all come to understand, or knowledge work, right? Once you say it's going to get infinitely better, and then you say, well, all knowledge that I have will become known to AI in time, whether it's for me or for somebody else. Then you start to work on it. The other thing, though, is you say, well, knowledge itself is not valuable. So if you thought that holding on to knowledge had value, you're deluding yourself. It's just that ship has sailed. When AI turned on, we went from a place where you could identify exactly where a piece of knowledge was in space and time to a place where you don't know where it is, because the AI model has it, and it's up to you to query the model to get it to tell you that it has it. So it resists observation. Once you know that, you're like, oh, okay, it's done. So now the mission becomes, okay, humans need a rock that we're just going to thrive on at the mouth of a black hole, and it's going to be fine. And that's what we transitioned our actual mission inside of the business that I'm building. But most importantly, it starts with me. And Christina, I do think you watched me struggle through this, the ups and downs and of trying to, write my way and think my way and work our way out of this pit.
You ride the wave, yes.
Yeah, ride the wave, right? But
always as an entrepreneur.
I know, but first I had to realize it was a wave, realize I'd misread the wave, realize I wasn't riding the wave, and then get on the wave, do it again. And that's what we've been through together.
Yeah, and what people don't see on the outside is how you really, I know you don't love the word leverage your zone of genius in terms of your strategic thinking. I also want to call out I feel like your inventor was unleashed, right? Because you told me you didn't really have that inventor identity until this work. There are a lot of identity shifts. And through that, embracing AI hard and changing habits, you were incredibly, incredibly super high leverage with AI, which I think just amplifies the work, which is why I think you got such amazing velocity. Could you also speak about, you mentioned to me that you think being an older executive actually makes you a stronger strategist.
Ooh,
yeah, could you speak to that? Especially because a lot of executives that I work with also have strategic strengths. So I think this would resonate with a lot of folks.
Oh, sure. Okay. So let's start with the basic premise that age is a double-edged sword. Age in entrepreneurship is definitely a double-edged sword, but age in general is a double-edged sword. If you look at the traditional workplace, you'd say, well, the older you are, the more, I don't know what the word is, qualified to be a leader. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of, as you regard a workplace, you'd say, well, the older you are, the higher you are in the organization. But there's also an implication that at some point you age out of a workplace. So at McKinsey, for example, where I spent several years of my career, age 55, I don't think I'm sharing anything that's overly confidential, but at age 55, you get a package, you get an envelope, as I understand it. And the envelope says, if you leave today, I'll give you this. And if you don't leave today, you'll never get this offer again. And it's a big check. I won't disclose more because I do know what the check is, but it's a big check. So what's that really doing? It's saying, we kind of want you to move on. And your choices are, you could move into industry, or you could just sail away. But we don't want you to stay. And okay, so that's the basic premise. I think when I think about the world of AI, I think, first of all, that I've said in passing that AI resists observation. What I mean by that is that AI knows a lot more than it's willing to tell you, and it will only reveal what it needs to answer your question. It's not trying to be evasive or evil, but that's kind of the way AI is built. It's, as an aside, kind of a joke to listen to Congress asking AI executives oversight questions in an attempt to try to pin them down on this or that. Do you have this information? Did you steal that? Did you not steal that? It is almost impossible for those executives to answer that question. So the system itself resists observation. So then, what's the value of age? The value of age is knowing what questions to ask, knowing how to ask them, knowing what you're reading looks right, knowing what you're reading looks wrong. That is fundamentally why older people lead younger people, right? Seeing around corners. There's also sorts of euphemisms that we use, right? But fundamentally, the reason that older people lead younger people is to bring them along, right? Raise their capabilities, all sorts of words we use. Well, guess what? AI has all that bundled knowledge, and it's waiting for you to lean in to say, I trust AI. What if I trusted it? Okay. What if I believed I could change with it? Now I'm going to use it. And now you said, hey, what's the value of age? Well, the value of age is if we could just get every senior executive to realize that they need to lead the use of AI in changing their business, not somebody else. It is not a delegatable task. It is you. If you could start with that, then you can get to kind of, for me, the question I'm working on right now, which is, what if humans and AI led together? That is such an enormously profound question, but that is all I work on now. So what if humans and AI led together? Because that's where I think we're going. As an aside, one second. I'm abusing your generosity. Here's one of the books that I absolutely love, and I'm going to make your head hurt. Okay, that is a book on ants. What am I doing talking about ants? I have spent 2 weeks of my life this year studying ants. Why? Because ants as a community are about as close to an analogy that I have found to humans and AI working together. They fundamentally work as a community. And it takes a completely new mind to say what is possible. Superorganisms show us the way. That's an example of ants. And I believe that's where we're going. And I do think that it's the older strategists that are going to be able to step back and say, I wonder what is possible here. And that is what is possible. I do believe humans, by the way, humans are step 7. The only group of animals on the planet that are a higher sensibility than humans are superorganisms. They're ants. They're cockroaches. They're bees. And why is that so amazing? It's because they operate as a system together. They are selfless. They're egoless. And if I think about all of the things that you and I have worked on together, and you say, oh, wait, maybe there is this spike. I'm going to call it a spike because I don't like the G word, but there's a spike that Bruce is like really good at. Okay, great. Can you leave your ego at the door, Bruce? Okay, good. Let's look around and figure out who has the other spike. Let's complement Bruce's spike with this spike. Okay, that's what ants would do. We humans think, well, I can't do that because that's not my role. I can't give away that thing because then Christina's going to look too good. And then I have all these other things I have to worry about. And so when I step back and I say, in the age of AI, what's possible? First, if you know what your spike is, the very first thing you know is what you shouldn't be working on. Two, once you know what you shouldn't be working on, now you've got a rubric to say, well, is it someone else or is it AI? Or is it AI with someone else? But it's not me because I won't know when the AI is wrong because it's not my spike. So I think the work that we're doing, Christina, is enormously important, not just for me, but for everybody that wants to kind of lean in and say, what would we do if humans and AI led together? And that's where I think we're going.
Okay, so the high-level takeaway for people listening is that you could, as you said, leverage your zone of genius to figure out where would be highest leverage use of your time. And then secondly, again, is using AI as a strategic thought partner. And that's how you arrive to that Superorganisms book and thinking about how that system works for you personally. And it might look different for other people, what strategies they land upon. Does that sound accurate?
It is. I also have to compliment Brad Jacobs. Who's Brad Jacobs? Brad Jacobs is the founder. He's a serial entrepreneur as well. He's the founder of Expo Logistics, among other companies. And he put out a book this year, which I didn't read. How did you read it, Bruce? I cut it up with a knife. I fed it through a scanner. I uploaded it to AI, and I asked it to give me the insights. One of the key insights was that Brad Jacobs wants every one of his businesses to operate like ants. Brad Jacobs is the person that told me to read that book. The actual book is referenced in his tome, but yes, it's about zone of genius, and yes, it's about us, kind of finding what works for you. I'm not prescribing by any stretch, but for me, this has been a big help.
Yes. I mean, everyone's different in their zone of genius. So it's more to inspire people about possibilities for them. And another huge unlock that we discovered or you discovered from your zone of genius is writing to get unstuck. Can you briefly speak about that?
Okay. Every time I talk about writing, I'd never written in my life.
You haven't?
Not really. It's not been a habit until the last 6 months, Christine.
Okay.
But it is something that we've joked with each other over the last 6 months. That when I get stuck, I write my way out. I think that's a phrase from Hamilton, which I really love.
Me too.
By the way, if I had one person or two people or three people that I'd love to have dinner with, living or dead, Alexander Hamilton would be one of them, because I think that guy is like a real example of a scrappy entrepreneur. I did learn to write. And the reason I learned to write first was that I discovered inside of the business that writing a short memo is a perfect way to clarify your thinking. It's also a lot easier now with AI for people to write memos. It's also a lot easier for people to interrogate the memos they receive using AI. So memos are very useful. So I started by just, trying to write a 1 or 2 page memo. before I went forward with talking to anyone on the team about what I was thinking about. That turned into real big documents. So Christina, as I was thinking about,
I've seen some of them.
I know you have. You're generous. In some ways, I feel like I've written 2 books in less 6 months. One is an actual book. I have to figure out what to do with it. But one is an actual book that is trying to help people through the journey that I've gone through, which is this going from fear to acceptance to learning to thrive in the age of AI. And it's a parable. But I use that to kind of explain to my family what I was doing, because my family's not in AI, and in some ways they didn't really want to talk about it all the time. So I realized that there's a real gap, both of knowledge but also fear. This fear gap is, I think, the number one thing holding AI back from being ubiquitous in the world. It's absolute fear.
Yes.
Writing helped me think about how to describe why I'm not fearful. I'm not fearful. I've gotten completely over it. And so that was the first thing I wrote. But I think the more potent writing that I've done was about thinking through this idea of AI being a black hole, which I believe it to be, down to my boots. And the idea that if it's a black hole, knowledge is soon to be relatively valueless, right? So then the question is, if knowledge is valueless, and I built my entire career on knowledge work, what's going to endure when I'm gone? Like that was the last question that I'm kind of solving, right? What's going to endure when I'm gone? And you can get excited, really excited, when you start to realize, okay, wait a second, knowledge is one form of capital. It's not the only form of capital. Money is a form of capital. Relationships are a form of capital. Collaboration is a form of capital. We don't have just one form of capital as humans. And so, yes, this idea of a black hole says maybe one form of capital is disappearing right under our noses. And we haven't even woken up and realized it yet. Almost the way that Circuit City or Best Buy didn't see Amazon coming. I don't think humans realize that knowledge is fundamentally dead. So that form of capital has been absorbed into AI and will continue to be absorbed into AI. So then we humans are going to have to leverage and learn to leverage a completely new set of capital levers. And as soon as we do that, we're going to be fine. But we have to do that. And so the second part of writing that I did was to kind of clarify in my own mind, okay, what are these other forms of capital? And if there are other strong forms of capital that only humans are good at and not AI, then we don't have anything to worry about. We just have to learn to transition from this form of capital called knowledge work into a different form of capital that's going to be necessary for the entire humanity to be okay, to thrive, to take care of each other, to love each other, to do the stuff that only we can do. And so writing was what got me there. And I don't think I'm ever going back.
Oh my God, that was such a huge unlock for you. And
Huge.
I mean, it's huge for me too, personally, writing. And I personally love this paradigm that we don't have to hold all this knowledge in our heads and we can be higher leverage with our mental energy. So I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
Well, Christina, even you asked me 3 months ago, just to bring to life how hard this has been for me to transition. 3 months ago, I said, no way would I do a podcast. Not a chance. Why? I'm still holding on to this like I can't talk about what I'm going through. I
Well,
can't
we
talk
discovered
about what I'm working
activators in
on.
your zone of
I
genius.
know, but I'm just calling out how much we are. We go through these loops, and it has been a huge unlock to get relaxed, to just even get to the place where I'm willing to talk about something that's been in stealth mode for months.
Yes, you bring up a really great point that I think a lot of people might not see on the outside as well, which is how much like iterations and reframings and like digging deep that we really do in our work together. And I just want to check in with you. Do you have a hard stop at the top of the hour?
No, I'm
Oh,
fine. Others
yeah.
may have a hard stop listening to me. But
I mean, you have so many gems.
like,
I wanna...
delete. Sorry.
I know. So that was like the big breakthrough, right, with your strategic clarity. So I wanted to ask about a couple more. Second one, you had mentioned your mission a few minutes ago, and clarifying your mission. What shifted for you in that breakthrough?
For me, clarifying the mission was about deciding to help humans thrive, period, in the age of AI. And then realizing that that meant ensuring that we all have a stable rock to lean on going forward. So that's not obvious. That's not obvious at all. So if we're careful and analytical, and you just go online and look at the top valued AI companies, and you say, well, why are they valued that way? Fundamentally, they are being valued highly the more likely they are to displace humans. Yikes. No bueno. So, okay. So does that mean that humans have no future? No work potential? Interesting question. So I don't believe that at all. I just think it comes down to this phrase I used earlier around forms of capital. We have strengths, but how we deploy our strengths through new forms of capital is how humans are going to pivot. And so that to me is what's so exciting about this moment, but it's also so hopeful. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. However, humans are going to get displaced. And it's not a joke. Here's an example. Triage in a hospital. Like, what is triage actually? I walk in, I'm limping and I'm bleeding. It's a bad example, but just bear with me. Walking in, limping and bleeding into an ER. It's like straight out of a movie. And you meet a human. That's triage. That person goes, that person's about to die, needs to see a doctor, walks you through the door. Okay, straight out of an ER show. But what about walks in limping, not bleeding, claiming to be hurting a lot, like everybody else in the waiting room, but I'm the one who's about to die? Actually, the question then is, how do we know? And so when I go back to like the questions that I was asking myself earlier, and you say, well, okay, is a human the best source of knowledge necessarily to figure out if that person's high risk or not? Maybe today, but I don't think so much longer. If you apply Sam Altman's challenge, which is assume models will get infinitely better, then I think not only can AI potentially do triage better, they may be able to do it faster, and they'll certainly be able to do it cheaper. And so now you shouldn't be surprised that there's a company, Silicon Valley, about yesterday in the information that was valued at $3.6 billion doing verbal only nurse Q&A using AI. So what's that really about? It's first installing a system. I said AI is acquisitive, then gathering the data as humans say, no, you're wrong, and the model gets better, and no, you're wrong, and the model gets better, and it will get better. And just like China emerged as a manufacturing powerhouse after 30 years of getting better and better and better, and then suddenly we're like, oh boy, we got a problem. Well, guess what? AI is going to do the same thing. So Amazon did it to Circuit City. Circuit City's gone. Best Buy figured a way out. Best Buy's still around. China did it to American manufacturing. American gave it away. Don't know. So we humans have to figure out our way out as well, and we'll do it. But
Yeah.
that mission is really exciting for me.
Oh my God. And is the biggest difference for you in terms of like where we started and now on your mission is lack of conviction versus like super strong conviction? Is that the biggest difference for you? Or is it something else?
Conviction for me is an outcome metric. It's a result of something. I'm deeply religious, and not to lean on religion, but I am deeply religious, and
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't want my mission to be doing harm. And so conviction for me was sorting out what is the harm here, what of this is preventable, and then what can I do to prevent it while I establish a different way, in my tiny little way, a different way for us to thrive. And so those are the input metrics. If we must go there, those are actually what I was trying to sort through. And at the end of the day, conviction is an outcome. And I'm really excited about what we're working on because I think it has the potential to just make the world better using AI. And that is conviction. Yes, conviction is a huge change, but it's been a process of weeks and weeks and weeks of talking and writing and failing and trying and.
Yes, and I'm super excited because I love seeing the conviction in you, even though we don't know necessarily how you're going to get there yet. But the conviction.
I do. I'm not ready to say that today. But can we talk about that at a future thing?
Yes. But that the ladder's on the right wall now, right? As we said before, I love that quote.
Yeah, the hard part, okay, if you're going to go there, remember, we started this conversation saying I was about to launch a business. I climbed for 7 months with a big team, spent a lot of money, and realized I was leaning on the wrong wall. So let's just be clear. Yeah, I am really convicted now that I've got the ladder on the right wall. And I've also lived through climbing hard the wrong wall.
I mean, I need some celebration emojis in here, but and for people who haven't heard it, the quote from that's often attributed to Stephen Covey is, "Don't climb the ladder of success, only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall." And I find that resonates with a lot of my clients and with me as well, because I'm an optimizer. And okay. So, and yes, I also really want to celebrate you and your integrity, Bruce. That is one reason why I wanted to work with you, even though I didn't know you're deeply religious. But like, I was like, okay, he is such a good human. This is my kind of person. And I think that's important, in choosing to work with the right people and the right partnerships.
I appreciate that. Listen, I'm not perfect. I've lost my fair share of knife fights, but I'm really really excited about where I am right now on my journey, and that's all I can do.
Yes, and I'm going to ask you about that later, but in terms of being so aligned. But I did want to ask about like a third really big breakthrough that you had was your inventions, which you don't have to talk about, but you invented and created the potential for outsized market value in your businesses. And you evolved so incredibly quickly in the process, like we have mentioned before, even surprising you and me. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so imagine that you work 15 months on something and then the team actually goes from idea to solution in 71 hours. That actually happened. And maybe that's a jumping off point for a future episode or future conversation. But that actually happened. 71 hours, start to finish. Everything else has come out of that 71 hours. And I think the market potential for the business is bigger than any number I have ever worked on.
Like what could be a relatable example without giving it away?
Okay, Netflix might be relatable. Netflix is pushing $500 billion. I think that would be a relatable example. By the way, I have no desire to necessarily have money or coalesce it or whatever the word is. I don't actually give two hoots about the money. I care about answering the question, like, what's going to be left when I'm gone? And what's got to be left when I'm gone is something decent that is relied upon. I think of it more almost in an academic way. In academics, your stock and trade are papers, like published publications, right? And references or things, number of papers that are referred to the paper that you wrote. That to me is the right model, because you can't take money with you. But what you can do is solve a material problem in a productive, positive way that everyone leans on. And that's genuinely what motivates me. And okay, yeah, it's financially bigger than anything I've ever touched, but I don't actually, I don't think about that at all anymore. I have done that. It's funny. I built a coffee company purely for money.
Invented there too. I think a lot of people don't know that.
No, I messed up the brand. I totally messed up the brand. And my apologies to anybody who listens to this and realizes what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But I messed up the brand because I was building that company for the money. And when you're building something for the money, you make short-term decisions. And they're good ones. If all you want is money, then you'll get them. But that's when I say, like, I've lost my fair share of knife fights. I've made real errors. But I can't look in that mirror. I can't spend any time on that. But what does motivate me is making sure that the reference in the future leans on the work that we've done. We all stand on each other's shoulders. Maybe that's the right analogy. Maybe it's the papers being referenced. That's what matters, and that's what motivates me now.
Well, those errors were the stepping stones for you to get super, super clear now on that future reference.
Maybe. And then, some people would say, well, aren't you done? Aren't you supposed to be done? Like, you're middle-aged. Why aren't you done?
Oh, no. The second half of our lives doesn't have to look anything like the first half. I love that quote.
I love that. The other one that I heard recently was Warren Buffett saying, I don't much care for the first half of my life, but I'm quite delighted with the second half.
Oh, I didn't know he said that. I'm
He
gonna
said it
put
like
that in
very
my.
recently in his. I heard about it.
Oh,
I shouldn't say in his document, but it came out in the same time period as he was discussing going dark or going quiet. He mentioned that he's quite delighted with the second half of his life. Okay, I get that. I have absolutely no intention of stopping. There might be a time where I have to, but no way. It's downshift time. This is such an exciting time.
yeah.
And so long as we have energy to do good with the time we got, let's go.
That's right. You and I are in that inflection point. And I think a lot of people listening too. So I 100,000% agree. Let's go. We have so much we could leverage now, especially with AI. And so just to close the loop on that, I really, I have been so impressed with the impact of the potential of something, not just like say on revenue or market cap as Netflix, but the innovation, like the business model inspiration,
Yeah, really
and
cool.
how integrated it is in so many people's lives. That kind of impact is massive.
Well, and at the core, so Christine, I credit you with one thing, which is every time I would come back with a small statement, you'd ask me why it wasn't larger. Some version of that.
And you have ambitious goals, like very ambitious.
I know, but there are reasons to focus, but there are also reasons to expand, and one need not preclude the other. And so what I've been trying to do with my energy is think hard about how I can make sure both are possible. And stop worrying about how much of the value creation we capture. So that's something we would have talked about in business school: value creation, value capture, what strategy, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. But when you're staring down a larger sum of money, it's very quick on a human level to want it all. Reminder, you can't spend it. But regardless of that, if you let go of that and you just say, that's not my goal. My goal is not to acquire it or to hold it. The goal has just got to be to progress it, to lift it up, to lift us all up. If we can do that, you can get so many people on your boat. And if you listen, they're going to tell you how to not screw up the blank, the brand, the implementation, the go-to-market, the blah, 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 blah. So just it changes your brain if you stop thinking about money and you start thinking about progress, and that's all you think about. Then you're like, oh, why do I need to keep owning this business? Maybe it's better combined with that one. Tell me a CEO that thinks that way, because all of your incentives are wrapped up in holding on to it. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the right answer or the wrong answer. I'm just saying it's a huge mindset shift.
I mean, it's the wisdom of someone who's founded more than once too, I think.
Maybe.
So that's a helpful perspective for some people. Okay, so we've talked about these awesome breakthroughs. I would like to talk about a different kind of breakthrough. What was a blind spot that surprised you the most? And how did seeing it change how you see yourself as a CEO and founder?
It's a blind spot. I would say I leaned on being the expertise. And when you lean on expertise, you found yourself in a phenomenal trap, especially in the age of AI. I think we've talked about it extensively. If I say expertise, which means knowledge and hard-won wisdom, and both the knowledge and the wisdom are now available to anyone that has the wisdom to ask. then leaning on expertise is an interesting thought and no longer a valid career path, in my view. So I think that was the biggest blind spot for me. And if we reflect on kind of, you called it existential crisis, I think it's kind of that existential ball that we're all working on and in the topic of AI. I think reframing around that was really, really important. I might have some expertise, but that can't be the reason why I'm here, because that is passing, is of passing value by the minute, maybe by the second. So that was the biggest blind spot, was that realization. And I think that's what led me to say, okay, if that's the case, then what will endure when I'm gone has to be something completely different than creating a handful of businesses. It's got to be something that is referred to, is referenced. And that's not about vanity. That's about just progress. Help people progress. That means not doing harm. And it means working on the right things in the right way. And then the rest will just work itself out.
Yes, and I also want to interject to let people know that we all have blind spots, by the way. It's not trying to call Bruce out. I definitely have blind spots, but we don't see them. That's why they're blind spots. And speaking of reframings, because I think that was not a practice that you necessarily did. Is that correct? When we first started? I mean, most people that I work with are like, what are you talking about, Christina? How did reframings help you maybe with certain, with like things that came up from a negative slant, for example?
Sure. I mean,
that was also something that surprised you in our conversations in the past.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the idea of reframing, the way I have taken it is to be something about, in particular for me, was moving from negative to positive. I have historically seen a lot of problems, not opportunities, or a lot of gaps in capability or gaps in progress or profitability, or anybody that I've consulted to over the years would recognize that the McKinsey way is to find problems and then show you how you can get past them. But there is a possibility to take that too far, and I think I've taken it to its natural limits. And reframing is a lot of what you've heard me just talk about, whether it's reframing AI from something to be afraid of to something to like really be excited about, or a teammate from somebody that's lacking capability to somebody that is just, I'm so grateful that they're around me. That's reframing, and everything in between. There's lots of do-overs, man. If I could do over entire chapters of my career, reframed, I think there's a lot of people that would agree that it would be a wonderful thing. But that's not the game we get to play. So let's just, say sorry, move on.
Well, I want to celebrate you because I don't know if you noticed, but you are like a reframing master now. Within a few months, I noticed you started proactively reframing in our conversations. Or first there needs to be awareness, but if we like highlighted that there could be a reframing opportunity, you just started going into it. Right. So from my perspective, like it's amazing seeing the transformations on the outside as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
What would you say has been the biggest impact of that practice, or that?
The biggest impact is shedding fear. Entrepreneurs don't have much time for fear. Fear is like, the ugly outcome of anxiety, or the what if it goes wrong, or the right? It leads to paralysis. There's not much time for that. However, if you also are taking a large number of people or a large amount of money with you through a journey, you do owe it to them to be more right than wrong. And so I think reframing as a practice with the help of AI allows you to really do incredibly deep self-reflection on your ideas, on your reactions, on your sentence structures. There's just so many things you can do to progress yourself forward on a personal level, regardless of what your business is doing. A lot of what you're seeing from me, Christina, is a consequence of a habit you can't see, which is using AI privately to challenge myself, which I am hundreds, if not thousands of hours into at this point in my life. Literally
Yeah.
thousands of hours at an AI terminal challenging
You got
my
like a PhD in AI by now, I think.
I don't know, but I am quite literally thousands of hours into it. I don't think that's exaggerating at all, right? 2,000 hours is a work year, right? 40 times 50, 2,000 hours is a work year. Yeah, I am thousands of hours into using AI to challenge myself. And if you constrain it, which I do, and I mean like forcing it to be positive and allowing it to guide forward and not, suck you into the abyss, it's really useful.
Yes, it is huge. I mean, it points to like your very first major reframing from fear of AI to trust. And that was leveraging AI. And so related to that, like since you started leveraging your zone of genius and reframings and AI, what changed in the velocity or quality of your work and decision making?
Well, first, I am much less likely to do someone else's work for them.
Why do you say that?
Well, because if someone is on a team, they ought to be able to do their job better than I can. So I'm much less likely to walk in with a hypothesis. I'm much more likely to walk in with questions. When you walk in with a hypothesis, which is something I learned in my McKinsey time, you can take that too far because it comes across as like I'm telling you what to do, and you don't get people's best. If you walk in with assuming that they have done their job absolutely brilliantly and that your job is to do nothing and only do something if absolutely necessary to keep that person from their own blind spot, that fundamentally changes your mindset. And I think that's been the biggest unlock for me. If I assume that Christina Pan knows how to get me forward, I'm not going to challenge your methods. I'm going to lean into your methods. I'm not going to have any skepticism at all.
Oh, I welcome challenge.
Yeah,
I know you're giving an example.
Yeah, but it's about a mindset. And so the biggest unlock for me has been to assume that the people around me have great intent, have great capability, and have great accomplishment. And then your job changes. Your job changes to help them not fail.
Yes.
Just help them catch their own blind spots before it hurts them, because they don't want to fail. And that's just a different place.
Yeah, and that's what I love about when people deeply know their zone of genius, is that you just want to use your energy on that, and then you let go of other things that are not in your zone of genius. And you also mentioned to me that something that was surprising and a first for you in life maybe was that you feel like you haven't made a single bad decision in the 6 months of us working together so far. Why did you say that?
Well, let's start with the fact that at the beginning of the story, I made a lot of bad decisions in the prior 6 months. I described even as a human walking in the midst of fog when we met. So I don't see that as gosh, I'm so brilliant. It's almost more of a surprise that a different set of practices can lead to mostly perfect outcomes, which really does feel that way right now for me. So I don't want that to sound, that could come across as like incredibly, I don't know what, bold or audacious or some stupid word, but it's not that at all. It's more of like, holy smokes. When I change my practices, the outcomes change. That's it. And I mean it when I say I don't think I have made a single decision I regret in the last 6 months that we worked together. I don't think that is untrue in the least. It's as surprising for me to say as it is perhaps for others to hear.
Yeah, that's incredible. I was like, wow. And I love that you're so aligned when you say in terms of no bad decisions. It's like no regrets, as you said, and you're just very aligned and you feel good about the decisions.
Yeah, I really do. I feel like, with the information we had at the moment that we had it, made good decisions, but also on a personal level with the skills I had, and the words I chose in the moment I said them, said more of the right things than the wrong things, did more of the right nudge than the wrong nudge. So there's a little bit of grace and like understanding for myself and not holding myself to such an insanely high standard, but also there's a lot of peace in that.
Well, we are still a journey in progress as well. And I'm super excited about your 100x vision. We're like, let's skip the 10x. Bruce has moved on to 100x vision. And so maybe we'll head towards wrapping up. For the AI CEOs, founders, and senior executives listening, especially those, navigating complex inflection points like you, what would you tell them about the value of having the right executive coaching partner at this level? And specifically, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what has been unique or stand out about working with me in this journey so far?
Look, I realize this may sound promotional. So I'll say one thing that is great and one thing that's not great to help you answer this, just so you know I'm being honest. I loved the discovery, the reminder. It's not like I've never been aware of what I do that's unique, but it's a giant reminder of that you've got a lot of tools, but what are the good tools? What are your best tools? We don't spend very much time, Christina, talking about what are my bad tools. And I credit you for that. There's not a lot of value in dwelling in the past. But instead, if you lean forward, and I do think that's a credit to the way that you have worked with me, if you lean into the things you are great at, they tend to crowd out the things that you're not as good at. There's just not much more time available to use those bad tools. Okay, so I think that has been really good. Now, the thing that I think is going to be less good for your practice and just more good for the AI execs is I think that everybody should have a coach, and that you're going to get as much out of it as you decide you're going to get out of it. So for those that have had coaches and say, "Man, this is terrible," okay, fine. I'm going to put that on you. You mentioned at the beginning that I ride horses. That's been a new thing in the last year and a half for me. There's a saying in horseback riding that it's never the horse's fault. It's always your fault. And if I would say to anybody that's had a coach and gotten nothing out of it, that's on you. It's very rarely on the coach. So if implicitly what I'm saying is any coach is better than no coach.
Oh, really?
I happen to think that you're a very good coach, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying, it would be great if I said, Christine is the only coach in the world that you could possibly use. I don't actually believe that. I think just start. Christine's a really great coach, but just start. Pick a coach. Anybody. And anybody is going to be better than nobody. That's the part that I would just say, if someone's on the fence, just try it. But you're going to get out of it what you expect to get out of it. And if you're not ready for it, if you've got a chip on your shoulder about someone telling you what to do, go learn to ride a horse and tell me how it feels, because you're nobody in a sport that you know nothing about. And I think that analogy carries over here, which is that if you're willing to put yourself out there and really lean into the process, you get a lot out of it. And I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, wow. Interesting, spicy point of view. I might have a differing point of view, but I do encourage people in terms of, I strongly believe in finding a coach who obviously jives with you. So not every coach is going to fit everybody. And so you got to find one that vibes with you. And I personally would recommend a coach that is high leverage, because there are coaches, some coaches are better than others, like any field. And
I believe you.
yes, that is one reason.
I totally believe you. What I would say is I don't have perspective, Christina. Genuinely, I don't have perspective. I've really enjoyed working with you. I don't have a perspective on the different methods and how they fit.
Oh, but yes, I appreciate all the honest views. That's most important. And then people have to decide for themselves.
Yeah.
I personally have really loved working with Bruce.
Thank you.
Truly delightful. I'm always excited to meet with him. And so I wish everybody find the same partnership for themselves. And I have two fun questions for you.
Uh-oh.
Before we close, or before we see if there's Q&A. Okay, so first fun question. What is a cool use of AI you've discovered recently? Like maybe something that could be highly valuable or surprising to the leaders listening.
Oh, ask it to tell jokes, to write jokes for you. Specifically, ask it to write jokes that are going to work with a particular group of people that you can describe to it. It's really fun.
You use that? I mean, I guess you must have. Did you
No,
say no?
I've never used it. Never. Honest. I come up with the jokes all by myself.
When's the last time you used that?
I use it all the time.
Oh, you use it before you come to our sessions?
No.
Okay. I guess you're just naturally funny in our sessions. Okay, the second fun question is, what's something cool outside of AI, nothing to do with AI, that you're excited about and might be like a useful tip for people listening to this podcast?
Silence. Silence is the opposite of the world we're in. And figuring out how to be able to be in complete silence is really grounding. I think I told you this story, but briefly for the group, I, at one point in the last 5 years, had a bout with claustrophobia. And the way I got myself out of it was through a particular program called challenge therapy, which I went to Boston College and spent a week. And one of the things that I got myself up to being able to do was to spend 30 minutes locked in a cabinet. And the amount of mindfulness that you need to be able to create to get past your fear, to stare down fear, whatever that is for you. For me, it was silence. And so the exact opposite of the pace and of the social media or the attention economy that we're in is silence. And I have remarkably over the last 2 years gotten over both.
Yes, I cannot relate to that example personally, but silence is definitely actually an advanced practice, as they say in yoga. So that is a lovely suggestion, especially in this social media AI era, and a great reminder for mindfulness. Okay. So, Bruce, for people who want to follow your work or stay connected with what you're building, where should they connect with you, or where could they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. And shortly, you will see an announcement on LinkedIn about the companies that we're exposing to the world. But right now, LinkedIn is the best way to find me.
Yes, I was going to say he is in stealth mode, so maybe not yet, but
no, not yet.
Coming
soon.
Up. Okay, and again, I specialize in helping AI CEOs and founders and executives get strategic clarity and confidence in your journey pioneering where there are no precedents by strategically amplifying your zone of genius, which we've talked about a lot in this podcast, for your highest leverage and your next 10x. And if Bruce's story inspired you, in the life-changing transformation that's possible for you too, when you have the right executive coaching thought partnership, I invite you to reach out or book a call on my LinkedIn and we can explore next steps. My zone of genius is maximizing your zone of genius. And so let's see. I think there are no questions at the moment for Q&A. So if people have questions afterwards, I could post in the LinkedIn live comments and we will answer them. And so thanks, Bruce. I celebrate you for sharing so wisely, openly, vulnerably, honestly. I knew we'd have a really great, deep conversation. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us today or on the replay. Wishing you your best energy and highest leverage in your zone of genius.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.